What is strength? Is it the power to move mountains or the power to move nations? Is it found in the muscles of the body or the resolve of the spirit? In the vast tapestry of mythological and biblical heroes, few figures represent the paradox of strength quite like Samson. His is a name synonymous with superhuman power, but his story, found in the Hebrew Bible's book of Judges, is far more than a simple tale of a strong man. It is a complex narrative of faith, destiny, flawed humanity, and devastating betrayal. This is not just the story of a man who could defeat armies. It is the story of a man who could not defeat himself. Welcome to Mythic Mundi. Today we unravel the epic and tragic life of Samson, the consecrated judge of Israel. Our story begins during a dark and turbulent time for the ancient Israelites. The book of Judges describes a chaotic cycle of history. The people would turn from their faith, they would be oppressed by a neighboring power, they would cry out for a deliverer, and a judge would be raised up to save them. In this era, the oppressing power was the Philistines. They were a formidable people, technologically advanced with iron chariots, and they held dominion over the tribes of Israel. In the small village of Zorah lived a man named Manoah and his wife. Their lives were marked by a quiet sorrow. They were barren and had no children. One day, a figure described as an angel of the Lord appeared to Manoah's wife. The messenger brought astonishing news. Not only would she bear a son, but this son was chosen for a divine purpose before he was even conceived. He was to be a Nazirite from birth. In ancient Hebrew culture, a Nazirite vow was a sacred pledge of dedication to God. It was usually temporary, but Samson's was to be for his entire life. The rules were strict and absolute. First, he was never to drink wine or any fermented drink, nor consume anything from the grapevine. This symbolized a separation from the ordinary comforts and celebrations of the world. Second, he was never to touch a dead body, whether of an animal or a person. This was a vow of ritual purity, separating him from death and decay. And third, the most famous rule of all, a razor was never to touch his head. His uncut hair would be the outward, visible sign of his lifelong covenant with God. The angel declared the child's destiny. He shall begin to deliver Israel from the hand of the Philistines. Manoah and his wife followed the instructions precisely. The child was born, and they named him Samson. The texts tell us that the boy grew, and the Lord blessed him. And as he grew into manhood, the Spirit of the Lord began to stir within him. This divine stirring would manifest as incredible, raw, physical power. Samson's strength was not his own. It was not the result of training or discipline. It was a divine gift, directly linked to his Nazirite vow. As long as he honored the covenant, the power was his to command. But as Samson entered adulthood, his story takes its first complicated turn. This divinely chosen deliverer was not a saint. He was impulsive, passionate, and drawn to conflict. His first major decision as a young man would set the entire course of his life, sparking the very conflict he was born to begin. He traveled to the Philistine city of Timnah, and there his eyes fell upon a Philistine woman. He returned to his parents and made a demand that horrified them. "I have seen a Philistine woman in Timnah. Now get her for me as my wife." His parents protested. Could he not find a wife among his own people, the tribes of Israel? Why would he seek to marry into the family of their oppressors? But Samson was adamant. "Get her for me, for she is right in my eyes." The narrative adds a fascinating, complex layer here. It states that his parents did not know that this impulse was from the Lord, who was seeking an occasion to move against the Philistines. Samson's personal desires, it seems, were being woven into a larger divine plan to provoke a confrontation. And so Samson and his parents journeyed to Timnah to arrange the marriage. On the way, as Samson walked through the vineyards, a young lion suddenly roared and charged at him. In this moment, the Spirit of the Lord rushed upon him. Unarmed, with nothing but his bare hands, Samson met the lion's attack. The text describes the event with stark simplicity. He tore the lion apart as one might tear apart a young goat. It was the first recorded display of his monumental strength. He told no one what had happened, not even his parents. Sometime later, he returned for the wedding. He turned aside to look at the lion's carcass. In the dry, sun-bleached skeleton, he found something impossible. A swarm of bees had made their home inside it, and the carcass was overflowing with honey. He scooped out the honey with his hands and ate it as he walked. He even gave some to his parents, though he did not tell them where it came from. This moment is critical. In touching the dead body of the lion, Samson had just broken the second rule of his Nazirite vow. His power remained for now, but the first crack in his foundation had appeared. This act of impurity, this small compromise, was a dark foreshadowing of what was to come. His great strength was now paired with a great spiritual carelessness. The stage was set for his wedding feast, a 7-day celebration, and it was here, in an arrogant display of confidence, that Samson would light the fuse of war, not with a sword, but with a riddle.
The wedding feast was a major social event. As was the custom, Samson was joined by 30 Philistine men as his companions, essentially his groomsmen. Feeling confident, perhaps arrogant from his secret victories, Samson proposed a wager. "Let me tell you a riddle," he said. "If you can solve it during the 7 days of the feast, I will give you 30 linen garments and 30 changes of clothes. But if you cannot solve it, you will give me the same." The Philistine men, confident in their numbers, agreed. "Put forth your riddle," they said. Samson spoke the lines he had composed, inspired by his secret encounter with the lion. "Out of the eater, something to eat. Out of the strong, something sweet." The Philistine companions were baffled. They puzzled over the cryptic words for 3 days, but the answer eluded them. The riddle was personal. It was impossible to solve without knowing Samson's secret. As the days passed, their frustration turned to desperation. They were not just facing the loss of a wager. They were facing public humiliation at the hands of this outsider, this Hebrew. On the 4th day, some texts say the 7th, they cornered Samson's new wife. Their threat was brutal and direct. "Coax your husband into explaining the riddle for us, or we will burn you and your father's house. Did you invite us here to impoverish us?" Trapped and terrified, Samson's wife turned her fear into tears. She went to Samson, weeping and accusing him. "You do not love me," she cried. "You hate me. You've given my people a riddle, but you haven't told me the answer." Samson replied, "I haven't even told my own father or mother. Why should I tell you?" But she was relentless. She wept and pleaded with him for the remainder of the feast. Day after day, she pressed him, wearing down his resolve with her accusations. Finally, on the 7th day, Samson's legendary strength gave way to her emotional pressure. He broke. He told her the answer to the riddle, the lion and the honey. She immediately betrayed him, running to her Philistine kinsmen and revealing the secret. Just as the sun was setting on the final day of the feast, the 30 companions came to Samson with a smug, poetic reply. "What is sweeter than honey? And what is stronger than a lion?" Samson knew instantly what had happened. He had been betrayed by the woman he had crossed boundaries to marry. His response was cold with fury. "If you had not plowed with my heifer, you would not have solved my riddle," he said. But a debt was a debt. Samson was now obligated to provide 30 sets of fine clothing. Once again, the Spirit of the Lord rushed upon him. But this time, it was not for defense, it was for vengeance. He journeyed to the Philistine city of Ashkelon, a significant distance away. There, his divine strength was unleashed upon the population. The narrative states he struck down 30 men of the city, took their garments, and returned to the feast. He threw the plundered clothing at the feet of the men who had solved the riddle. His obligation was met, but the cost was staggering. Filled with rage, not at the men, but at the betrayal of his wife, Samson abandoned the feast and returned to his father's house. The wedding was over. The immediate consequence of his rage was tragic. Samson's father-in-law, perhaps believing Samson would never return, gave his daughter, Samson's wife, to the man who had been Samson's best man. When Samson's anger eventually cooled, he decided to return for his wife, bringing a young goat as a gift of reconciliation. But her father refused to let him see her. He said, "I was so sure you hated her that I gave her to your companion. Is not her younger sister more beautiful? Take her instead." This final insult was too much for Samson. His personal grievance was about to escalate into a national catastrophe. "This time," Samson declared, "I will be blameless in what I do." His resulting act of retribution was not just violent, it was symbolic and economically devastating. He went out and, according to the text, captured 300 foxes, or perhaps jackals. He tied them together in pairs, tail to tail, and fastened a torch to each pair of tails. He then lit the torches and set the panicked animals loose in the standing grain fields of the Philistines. The resulting fire was an inferno. It consumed everything. The standing grain, the cut sheaves, the olive groves, and the vineyards, the entire agricultural wealth of the region went up in flames. When the Philistines demanded to know who was responsible, the answer came back, "Samson, the son-in-law of the Timnite, because his father-in-law took his wife and gave her to his companion." The Philistines' response was swift and merciless, but they did not attack Samson directly. They went to Timnah and enacted their own twisted justice for the escalation. They burned Samson's wife and her father to death, the very fate they had threatened her with to get the riddle's answer. When Samson learned of this, his rage became something deeper. This cycle of retribution had now claimed the woman at its center. He vowed, "Since you've acted like this, I will not stop until I have taken my vengeance on you." The text describes his next move with a chillingly vague phrase. He attacked them savagely, or hip and thigh. It was a great confrontation, and he struck down many of them. After this, Samson, now a full-fledged enemy of the Philistine state, retreated. He went to live in a cave at the Rock of Edom. The Philistines were finished with tolerance. They gathered a massive army and marched into the territory of Judah, Samson's own tribe. The men of Judah, terrified, asked the Philistine army, "Why have you come against us?" The army replied, "We have come to take Samson. We will do to him as he did to us." This is one of the most tragic moments in Samson's story. His own people did not see him as a deliverer. They saw him as a liability, a troublemaker who was bringing the wrath of their oppressors down on them. 3,000 men of the tribe of Judah marched to the cave at Edom. They confronted Samson, not to join him, but to arrest him. They pleaded, "Don't you realize the Philistines rule over us? What have you done to us?" Samson's reply was simple, "I only did to them what they did to me." The men of Judah said, "We have come to tie you up and hand you over to the Philistines." In a moment of profound loneliness, Samson made only one request: "Swear to me that you will not kill me yourselves." They agreed. They bound their great judge with 2 new ropes and led him out of the cave, a prisoner of his own people, to be delivered to their mutual enemy. As they approached the Philistine camp at Lehi, the Philistines saw him. They saw their great enemy, bound and helpless, and they began to shout in triumph. But their celebration was premature. As the sound of their jeering filled the air, the Spirit of the Lord rushed upon Samson for a final, cataclysmic time in this encounter. The 2 new ropes on his arms became as flax charred by fire. They melted from his hands. He looked around, unbound but unarmed, surrounded by an army. He spotted the object that would become the symbol of this day, the fresh jawbone of a donkey. He seized the makeshift weapon, and with it, he defended himself against the Philistine force. The text says he struck down 1,000 men. At the end of the exhausting encounter, Samson stood alone on the field, surrounded by the defeated. He famously cried out, "With a donkey's jawbone, I have made donkeys of them." He was victorious, but he was also human. After the incredible exertion, he collapsed, overwhelmed by thirst. He thought he would die. He cried out to God, "You have given your servant this great victory. Must I now die of thirst and fall into the hands of the uncircumcised?" The narrative states that God then split open a hollow place in the ground, and water came gushing out. Samson drank, his strength returned, and he was revived. For the first time, Samson's power was not just for vengeance, it was for survival. And for the first time, he had acknowledged the source of his victory. After this day, Samson judged Israel for 20 years. His legend was secure. But his greatest test, the battle for his heart and his secret, was yet to come.
"20 years passed. Samson continued to be a thorn in the side of the Philistines, a one-man army of resistance. His legend was a story of defiance. But his old habits, his personal weaknesses, had not vanished. They had simply been waiting. One night, Samson went to the Philistine stronghold of Gaza. He was not there for diplomacy or for war. He was there to visit a prostitute. His enemies learned he was in the city and saw their chance. They surrounded the house and lay in wait at the city gate all night, planning to capture him at dawn. But Samson did not wait for dawn. He rose at midnight. He walked to the city gate, the massive iron-barred main entrance to the fortified city, and in an act of almost casual, contemptuous power, he grasped the 2 gateposts along with the bar. He tore the entire gate structure, posts and all, from the ground. He then put the massive structure on his shoulders and carried it for miles, all the way to the top of a hill that faces Hebron. He was untouchable. He was arrogant. He believed his strength was limitless, his gift unconditional. And it was this hubris that led him to the valley of Sorek and to the woman who would be his downfall. Her name was Delilah. The narrative does not specify if she was a Philistine, but her loyalties quickly became clear. The lords of the Philistines, frustrated and unable to defeat Samson by force, saw an opportunity. They approached Delilah with a proposition of immense wealth. "See if you can lure him into showing you the secret of his great strength and how we can overpower him. Each of us will give you 1,100 shekels of silver." This was a staggering fortune. Delilah agreed. She began her work, using intimacy as her weapon. "Tell me, Samson, what is the secret of your great strength? How can you be tied up and subdued?" Samson, perhaps toying with her, perhaps already suspicious, gave her a lie. "If anyone ties me with 7 fresh bowstrings that have not been dried, I'll become as weak as any other man." The Philistine lords, hiding thereby, provided her with the bowstrings. When Samson was asleep, Delilah tied him up. Then she cried out the alarm, "Samson, the Philistines are upon you!" He awoke and snapped the bowstrings as easily as a thread of tow snaps when it comes close to a flame. The secret was not in the bowstrings. Delilah pouted. "You have made a fool of me. You lied. Tell me how you can be tied up." Samson gave her a second lie. "If they tie me securely with new ropes that have never been used, I'll become as weak as any other man." So Delilah took new ropes and tied him up. Again, she gave the alarm. "Samson, the Philistines are upon you." The men were, of course, hiding in the room. He snapped the new ropes off his arms like they were threads. Delilah was exasperated, but persistent. "Until now you have mocked me and told me lies. Tell me how you can be tied up." This time, Samson's lie became more elaborate, dangerously close to the truth. He pointed to his long hair, the 7 braids of his Nazirite vow. "If you weave the 7 braids of my head into the fabric on the loom and tighten it with the pin, I'll become as weak as any other man." So, as he slept, Delilah carefully wove his hair into her weaver's loom. She fastened it tightly with the pin. For a third time, she cried out, "Samson, the Philistines are upon you!" He awoke, and in one motion, he stood up, ripping the entire loom, the pin, the fabric, the heavy wooden frame right out of the floor, and walked away with it still attached to his hair. Her frustration turned to the same weapon that his first wife had used: emotional manipulation. "How can you say I love you when you won't confide in me?" she nagged. "This is the 3rd time you have mocked me and haven't told me the secret of your great strength." She kept this up day after day. She nagged him and pressed him daily until, as the text says, his soul was vexed to death. He was weary. He was tired of the fight. The strongest man in the world was once again defeated by relentless emotional pressure. He finally broke, and he told her everything. He told her about his mother and the angel. He told her about the Nazirite vow from birth. He told her the one final, inviolable secret. "No razor has ever been used on my head. If my head were shaven, my strength would leave me, and I would become as weak as any other man." Delilah knew. She knew this was the truth. She sent a final message to the Philistine lords. "Come up once more. He has told me everything." They came, this time bringing the silver payment in their hands. That night, Delilah lulled Samson to sleep, his head resting in her lap. She signaled for a man to come in. He took a razor, and he cut the 7 braids of Samson's hair. As the hair fell to the floor, Samson's covenant was not just cracked, it was shattered. He had betrayed his vow and his purpose. Delilah watched the change. She began to afflict him. His strength was draining away. She shouted the alarm for the last time. "Samson, the Philistines are upon you!" He awoke from his sleep, confident as always. He thought, "I will go out as I did before and shake myself free." And then, the most tragic line in his entire story. But he did not know that the Lord had left him. His strength was never in his hair. The hair was merely the symbol of his vow. His strength was from God.
And in his final act of arrogance and betrayal, that connection was severed. He was just a man. The Philistines seized him. He struggled, but it was useless. They overpowered him easily. And to ensure their victory was permanent, they inflicted a terrible, cruel punishment. They gouged out his eyes. Samson, the great hero, the judge of Israel, was now blind, weak, and a captive. They bound him in bronze shackles and took him to Gaza, the very city whose gates he had once torn down. They put him in the prison, and they forced him to do the most menial of tasks, grinding grain at the mill, work reserved for animals or the lowest of slaves. The Philistines rejoiced. Their enemy was broken. To celebrate their victory, they held a great festival in honor of their chief god Dagon. They declared, "Our God has delivered our enemy into our hands." The temple of Dagon was packed with people. All the rulers of the Philistines were there. On the flat roof of the temple, there was an estimated 3,000 men and women, all gathered to watch the spectacle. And what was the entertainment? They called for Samson. The blind, broken man was led out of the prison and brought into the temple to entertain the jeering crowds. They mocked him, this shell of a man who had once made their armies tremble. After a time, Samson spoke to the young servant boy who was guiding him by the hand. "He positioned me," he whispered, "so I can feel the pillars that support the temple. I want to lean against them." The boy, likely suspecting nothing, guided Samson's hands to the two massive central pillars upon which the entire structure rested. And in that darkness, surrounded by his enemies, Samson prayed his final prayer. It was not a prayer for forgiveness. It was a prayer for one last moment of purpose. "Sovereign Lord, remember me. Please, God, strengthen me just once more. Let me, with one blow, get revenge on the Philistines for my 2 eyes." Samson placed his right hand on one pillar and his left on the other. He braced himself. And then he pushed. He shouted, "Let me die with the Philistines." He pushed with all his might. The narrative does not say the Spirit of the Lord rushed upon him. It simply says he pushed and his prayer was answered. The pillars gave way. The great temple groaned, shuddered, and then collapsed inward, bringing the roof and its 3,000 occupants crashing down on the rulers and the crowd below. The celebration turned into a tomb. Samson, the flawed hero, the tragic judge, perished in the rubble, his arms outstretched, his final purpose fulfilled. The text concludes with a stark summary, that he killed many more when he died than when he lived.
His family came and reclaimed his body from the ruins. They buried him in his father's tomb, between Zorah and Eshtaol. He had judged Israel for 20 years. Samson's story is a profound and challenging one. He was a man of divine gifts, but deep personal failings. He was a hero who won spectacular victories against his enemies, but who was ultimately defeated by his own passions and his own arrogance. His life serves as a timeless mythic warning that the greatest strength can be undone by the most intimate weakness, and that a sacred vow, once broken, can lead to a devastating fall. What story from mythology or legend do you want us to explore next? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this journey into our mythic past, please don't forget to like, follow, and comment. It helps our channel continue to bring these stories to life. Thank you for joining us on Mythic Mundi.